All right, so we are going to talk business planning, and this is not going to be as intricate as the business planning that I do at the end of the year when we set up an entire year for success, because at that point, I'm one of those that believes we need a full refresh, and sometimes it means taking a deeper dive to look at what's worked and what hasn't worked. This one is going to be a simple business plan. This is something that you can use and that I use typically either on a 30-day timeline, or if you want to do a 12-week timeline where you just have a condensed time frame to really make some progress on key areas. And so its intention is to set some clarity around what you're working on, and then also to just help you have some defined steps to take action that you can track and measure, which is the key of anyone who's doing anything successfully. We need to be able to track and measure. And what we know statistically is that those people who actually have a written plan tend to do a whole lot more to achieve their goals than those who do not have anything in writing. So a lot of times it's easy to have it in our heads. And my goal for us today is just to help you guys get it into writing. And so I've given you a template. It's uploaded here in the chat so you guys can download it. If you do not have the ability to print it real quick and grab it, you can just grab a blank piece of paper, and I'm going to walk you through 3 sections on a piece of paper that you can go through. And the goal for this is just for us to fill each of those out to the best of our ability. And you can take time later then to come back and give some thought to what else needs to be included. But for now, we're going to jump right in to a simple business plan so that you guys have something to work towards in the next 30 days, or again 12 weeks, depending on what kind of timeline you want to do. If you're working together also as a team, one of the things you guys can do is collaborate on how you support each other in reaching these goals, but you can also do this as a team and have a team business plan. That is generally really helpful for the quarter so that you can strive towards specific outcomes that your team is working on collaboratively, and you can assign different disciplines or projects based on the strengths of each team member. So really helpful from that standpoint to also have the ability to do that. So without further ado, I want to jump into this business planning session, and I'm going to actually share my screen so that you guys can see what I'm looking at as we go along. And again, the goal of that is to help you with being able to take a look at this business plan if you don't have it in front of you, so that you can follow along. So give me just a second to do a screen share, and we will jump right in. Let's see if I can get this. All right, here we go. Can you all see the business plan on my screen?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so here we go. So this is going to be one of those, again, one pagers, and it's going to be really simple for us to go through. If you haven't taken time to read through this, I would encourage you to go back and look at the setup pages, because it really is helpful. But for now, I want to take the time during the class to actually walk you through and make this more of a workshop where you have the space and the time to do this, so that you don't have to take home homework and work on this at a different time. So the first part of this simple business plan is identifying what are the outcomes or goals that you have. With that in mind, what I want to focus on is that these should be what are called SMART goals. So the acronym for us as SMART is something that is used very commonly in the business world. And the first piece of that is S stands for specific. That means that it's something that we know whether it was achieved or not. If you're not specific, if goals are too vague, such as I want to get healthy, that's a wonderful goal, but it doesn't define what that looks like for you. And so we're going to make sure that these outcomes or goals are specific. The second piece is that it's measurable. We need to be able to know, is there a benchmark that you're aiming for, so that we can track progress? Because we all know that having measurable results is really important. Not only does it fuel you to continue making progress, but it also helps you to know whether you're on track or not. If you could imagine watching a sports game where there's no scoring, like how fun would that be? Probably not too much fun if you don't know which team is winning or losing, right? So we need something that's measurable. And as humans, we crave that. We want to know, what is the score? How did we do? The third piece of the SMART acronym is attainable. It just means, is it realistic? A lot of times people set goals of, I want to make 300 times my income. Well, that might be a possibility, but you also want something that's attainable so that you don't get overwhelmed or discouraged with the process. And so it needs to be something that is attainable to you, knowing what you're capable of. But I would also encourage you to make it something that stretches you, something that's a little beyond what you're normally capable of achieving, because you need something to strive for. The fourth piece of the SMART is the R, which is relevant. And so if you're writing these down, that just means that it is applicable to your life, your business, your scenario. Don't allow other people's achievements or goals to determine what you think you should go after. This really should be something that's personal to you, because if your heart and soul are in it, you're going to go after it a lot more than you would if you were not personally connected to it. So make sure it's relevant to you and that it's tied to a why. If you've ever read the book Start with Why, it's a wonderful book, and it really helps tie in the reason why we need to do things the way we do it. We all need purpose, and so that relevant piece is really important so that you can tie it to something that's going to make a difference in your life. Hopefully it's an aspiration or an experience or something that's really motivating to you. And the last for SMART is T, which is time-based. And so that means we're going to have an actual deadline or a period of time that you're tracking these goals for. Does that make sense? All good on the SMART?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're going to jump right into writing these outcomes. And I'm going to give you guys some suggestions along the way. I'm totally okay with this being interactive. I don't want to talk the whole time. What I do want to make sure of is that as we go through it, that I answer any questions and help you guys clarify what your goals can look like. So the first piece is looking at outcomes or goals that are going to, again, affect you and your business in a positive way. So some of those things that I have used in past are things like building a database to a specific amount of people. That's a really great sales-oriented goal, because you have the ability to create that opportunity. And if you have maybe not enough business, what we know is that you typically need more prospects. And so if you can build up a database of people, then you're able to create more opportunity for you and your business. So that's one goal that I think is really helpful for most people. You can also look at outcomes such as income. That's a very common one. We see that a lot. Unfortunately, we don't always control our income in a commission-based sales environment. And so that's a great goal to have, and it should be something that we can focus on. But what we're going to learn is that we have to go through a lot of other steps to get to a specific income, especially if we're not the ones controlling what the commission structures are, or if we have flexibility in our commission structures. Unlike sales commission, where you're selling a product with a set price, we don't have a set price. So that means for us, we have to be willing to track a lot more metrics to be able to see where we're going with that. Okay. So that's another option for something you could do in real estate. I'd love to hear what you guys have done, especially if you've done a business planning class before and you have an idea of what things you have enjoyed working on, what kind of goals you have for that. Anyone want to share?
I feel like it's just me. So I've done SMART goals before, but I've never done them in real estate.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I don't know.
And that's fine. This is where it's good to apply those skills into a new area and learn how to build something that is going to be really helpful, for you guys looking at, again, a commission-based environment where you're in sales. You need a goal to aim for, right? And that's what helps you take the appropriate steps, even when you don't feel like it, or even when you have setbacks. And so this is, again, a really important thing just to go through the process of recognizing, okay, I need to have some clarity around what I'm working on.
Yeah.
Really cool. There are again, there are goals that you can create that are also things such as number of listings you want to take or number of sales that you want to achieve. So if those are things that you have as a SMART goal, I would definitely put them down. And again, at the top of the page, I think the biggest thing is to start looking um, at a timeline. So identify first if this is going to be a 30-day or a 12-week goal so that we know what kind of time frame we're working with. Um, and then we can start working on, okay, how did these outcomes get to? Another goal that I often will assist agents with attaining is connecting with A+ individuals in their database. So for those of you that know, I am a big proponent of the Buffini systems, because anytime you have a system in place that allows you to scale a business, it's a really good thing. And that one is a very clear system that has an outline of a marketing plan that works throughout the year. So for me, connecting with 25 A+ people in my database could be a specific outcome or goal. And then we talk about what does that look like? But what the purpose of that is to seek referrals from those 25 people, right? And so so that could be a very specific outcome of ask for referrals from my top 25 diamonds in my database. So that's another goal. I've seen goals and encourage people to look at charitable goals. So I have a friend who is a realtor, and their only goal every year is to give a minimum amount to charity. If you set a goal of, for instance, I want to give $50,000 to charity, if you know that your living expenses are above that or another 100,000, then it automatically creates the income goals that you want for your life. But the focus is still on how do I give to the things that are important to me. And so that could also be a very specific goal that you have, and again, probably in an annual plan that helps you with keeping focus on, I want to reach more people, serve more people, create more profit so that I can give to the charity of my choice. So those are some of the examples of SMART goals that that would go at the top of the page. Okay. So whether it's I want to create, 5 transactions in escrow, whether it's I want to have 5 million in sales volume, whether it's I want to build my database to 300 people, I want to connect with 25 of my top clients to ask for a referral, or I want to give $1,000 to charity this month. All of those are very specific, measurable goals that hopefully are also attainable for you, relevant to what you're doing in your business and time specific. We ready to move on? Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So the next piece is going to be, what are the action steps we need to take? And you'll see on this particular business plan that several of the things that we do in taking action really are a measurement of a discipline that we agree to. So what often can happen is that people say, I want to do this, so therefore I'll send out, a mailing of 500 postcards. That's wonderful, but that's not probably going to be consistent enough to build these outcomes or to get to a specific outcome. And so I want to again walk you through this from the standpoint of seeing how all of these connect together. So for instance, if your goal is to build your database to 300 people, there are going to be specific things you need to do to get in front of new people that you can add to your database. So it might look like, as an example, I will hand out 3 business cards every day to new people and ask for their contact information. Or maybe you go out and you sponsor a table at an event to collect information from people who are attending that event. Maybe you work an open house and you try to meet people that way. Maybe you go to a networking mixer or you advertise somewhere, but There's a lot of ways to cross that bridge. And so what I don't want to do is limit you to looking at what most people would consider specific real estate disciplines. I want you to use your imagination and say, what do I think will work for me if this is my goal? And here are the ways I can potentially get to that goal. These disciplines should be something that you are doing for yourself either daily or weekly. So this is something you can track as being consistent activities in your business. Okay. So again, back to my first example of farming, if you're mailing out one postcard, that's not going to do it. If you're door knocking a neighborhood to deliver a flyer every week, that's a different outcome. That's a completely different discipline, because your discipline is that you're door knocking 50 doors, or you're making sure you hand out 100 flyers, or something that you can again track and see that it's leading to actual additions to your database. Okay. There are a lot of ways you can create opportunity for your business. If you want, you can certainly in the chat or separately through email, send me a request for the lead generation tactics that I have. I have over 100 ideas just in that document that I've collected over the years to help people kind of spark some ideas as to how could they create business opportunities. Unfortunately, we have too many coaches and industry leaders saying there are, 5 key ways to create business in real estate. And I believe that the door is wide open to create it in a number of ways. I personally have been able to leverage different tactics in my business, such as networking internationally, such as working with co-op agents in other areas of the state, because we know that a lot of people tend to move across state or across city boundaries. And so that's been a referral source for me. Just closed one last month with an agent that referred me from the East Valley. So again, there's other ways that I know that you can use to build a great business without it being, the door knocking, the open house, the FSBO, the expireds, those kinds of traditional things. And that's not to say those aren't great ways to make a living, but I don't want you limited to only farming or doing, again, the things that everybody says you should be doing. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. So think about those non-negotiable disciplines, the things you're willing to commit to every week or every day to make a difference in your business. And I want you to make sure, again, these are very specific. If I pick up the phone and say, hey, Rachel, this week, how many of your disciplines did you complete? You're going to need to know if you could complete them or not, right? So if you write on there, call past clients, well, if you called one past client, you might say, well, yeah, I did it, but did you really? That wasn't the intent. So I would rather see something specific in here, such as call 10 past clients weekly. That to me gives me a way to say, I hit my goal or I didn't. I won, I lost. And we're able to see, is the discipline having the results we need? Because if you've got inconsistent action, it's really hard to measure what the outcomes are. So if you don't make 10 calls consistently every week, how do we know if the average of people who you get to connect with and speak to is 2 or 7, if every week it's a different number, right? So the point is to build in some consistency to your business so that you can actually measure some results and see, okay, if I make 10 calls a week, I only get to talk to 3 people on average, and that's only leading to 1 referral. And for my goals, I need 3 referrals. Therefore, I should probably call 30 people a week going forward, right? So after you've been able to evaluate this for 2 months, 3 months, whatever it is, you then have the ability to adjust whatever those metrics are. And so the numbers can adapt to create the outcomes that you want. So again, under the disciplines, I'm just going to give you some ideas for things. I've talked about several what we call traditional real estate opportunities, but I also want to remind you that there are others. So one of the things we talked about this month was doing pop buys. Those are delivering gifts of value or things that brighten someone's day. So you could do that. Another discipline might be to write personal notes every week. Maybe you could commit to writing a number of personal notes that allow you to connect with someone, or again, inspire or appreciate someone. You could contact agents, a number of agents from out of state areas that have relocation clients coming your way, and establish relationships. So maybe your goal is to establish relationships with so many agents every week. It can also be things like attending a networking function, or going to a business opportunity, maybe something like what we did last week with the realtors. Those are great ways for you to, again, continue to just grow and expand your influence and your network, and to build something. And then with all of these, of course, the key component is tracking. So once we have these disciplines in week, every week, you should have time on your calendar that you actually budget for doing these activities, because they won't just happen if you're waiting for free time. We don't typically have free time. So you have to commit to having a discipline hour, and back in the day, that used to be like the power hour, where people would come in and they'd call, and they'd dial for dollars, if you will, or they'd go out door knocking. Those are the disciplines I'm talking about. In today's world, that can look a lot different, but you still have to budget time in your calendar that is uninterrupted to create the opportunities, because it's not going to happen by default or by accident. You have to be intentional. Again, if you have a non-negotiable discipline, maybe of hosting 2 open houses a week, you need to plan those out. I would, encourage you to, again, put that on your calendar so that it's scheduled, it's marketed, you actually create the opportunity to drive traffic and to interest people. And if you get someone who calls and says, hey, I want to go out and see a home, or hey, I need to do a listing appointment, it should be worked in around the disciplines you've already scheduled for yourself. Those are non-negotiable. They are the things that are going to build your business and help you create the outcome you want. So if you fail to do those disciplines, you're not going to reach your goals, which ideally is going to fund your life aspirations. Okay. So any questions on the disciplines part, on what you're agreeing to do for yourself and for your business every week or every day? Okay. I'm a big proponent of having 3 to 5. You can use 6 if you're really disciplined, but I think 3 to 5 activities is sufficient. And I think it's great to have a mix between daily and weekly. I think there is something to be said for having a daily routine that helps you build a quality business. But there are also some things that, you're not probably going to host an open house every day. I get that. So there are some things that by default make more sense to maybe do weekly. And so you'll have to evaluate what that looks like for you. I know for me, my goal is to make sure that if I have a daily discipline, that I am winning on that daily discipline at least 4 to 5 times out of the week. I would love to say that I do it in perfection and that I do all of them all the time, but realistically, that just doesn't happen. So when that occurs, you've got to give yourself a little grace, right? Be okay with knowing that, you know what? I still did the disciplines the majority of the time, and I'm still getting closer to my outcomes because I did these activities that are driving the business in the right direction. Okay. So we know that, again, going back to my sports analogy, we know that in football, they don't catch a pass every time it's thrown, but the goal is to move the ball down the field, right? So if you're getting closer to the goal, that's important, and progress is the key. So keep focused on what you can control, not what you can't.
Yeah.
The last piece of this simple business plan before we wrap up is just real simply the improvements or projects. And again, I'm going to give you some examples because I want you guys to have an idea of what does it look like. For you in your business, it may be different than someone else. And part of that's going to be based on how long you've been in the business, your tenure and your experience level. Some of it's going to be based maybe on how much activity you currently have. So is it a busy season for you? Have things slowed down so you can tackle some projects? Or is this going to be a crunch where you're going to have to fit in a project even though it's a busy season, in which case you may not fill in all of those lines, because realistically, we want you to make progress and I don't want you to be spread too thin. These projects, what I want you to think of is the first thing that comes to mind when I ask you what would be the pivot point for your business moving in the right direction if you were to fix or improve it today. What is that one thing that's holding you back, stopping you from getting to your goals, or creating a pain point for you in your business? So I had a conversation with someone yesterday. It was his database. It's not organized. He can't contact people. He doesn't have the ability to create marketing or invitations or other things because it's not well put together. And so organizing the database was the number one goal for us for this month. And that's what is going to be worked on. So maybe it's something like that where you're needing to add some organization to your business so that you can function at a higher level and you're more efficient, and that allows you to be more productive, which then leads to more profit, right? Maybe it is enrolling in a skills class or a training class. If there's something specific that you know you struggle with, let's take, for instance, listing presentations. Maybe you enroll in a class to learn how to give an effective listing presentation so you can improve that skill set and become more confident and more able to execute on these goals. The last thing we want to do is create opportunity through all of our disciplines. All of a sudden we have people raising their hands to say, I want to do business with you. And then you can't follow through because you don't have, the skill set to maybe meet with them and consult or offer a presentation or answer the appropriate questions or overcome objections. So those are some of the things that maybe I would encourage you to consider. It might be earning a designation. Maybe you get real deep and specific in an area that you're interested in specializing in. And to do that, not only does it create a PR opportunity for you once you've gotten that designation or certification, but it also helps you to, again, have some confidence when you're meeting with clients and explain, I've invested in my business to learn these things and I'm skilled in these areas. And I know that means I'm going to do a better job for you than the average person that's in real estate. So again, that's another option, is maybe getting a designation or again, a certification. It could be something like reading books. That's often another thing on my non-negotiable but it can also be a project. If you have one book that you've intended to read for a while and you know it's something that will help you in your business, you can put that in there. So think about ways that you can build opportunity to improve or update or benefit your business by just taking care of something that typically is a one and done. Once you've done it, you're good. For me, I am also looking at a client appreciation party for this season. So that would be a project. It's not something I'm doing daily or weekly as a discipline, but it is a project that I want to create an outcome for. And by doing that, I know that it will directly impact the quality of my business and more importantly, the quality of the relationships of people around me. So that would be another example of what is a project I'm working towards this again this month or maybe this quarter that's going to help move my business forward and get me closer to what I want overall. Before we wrap up, what questions do you guys have? Is there anything I can cover in more detail or answer for you so that you can create this one-page business plan that helps you drive some better results? Okay.
I don't have anything specifically.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would also encourage you, the last piece of this, I have a tracker that I use and I use it for myself every week. I'm happy to share that with you, but you can also create your own. So what I would encourage you to do is two things, because what I know is that this is just the first half of what business planning means, and intentions are good, but we're human. So the first thing is to create something that allows you to track whether or not you're doing this. The business plan for me, it stays in front of me all the time. It's right on my wall. It's also on my desk. And it's in a folder that I take with me when I travel. It goes in my laptop bag. But keep that business plan in front of you for as long as, again, this business plan is intended to be used. And then, of course, set up a new one when the timeline has run out. So for you guys, whether it's 30 days or 12 weeks, you're going to carry this with you or keep it in front of you so you can focus on it. I want you to make a calendar appointment for yourself to work on your business plan in this next week. So that's your first step. This is action step number one. Make a calendar appointment for yourself that is executing on your business plan, because I know that you need the time to actually do the activities. Secondly, you need to have a tracker, whether that is maybe on the back of this sheet, you simply do a tally of every time you do one of your disciplines, or maybe you write down the disciplines and you draw some boxes so you can check mark boxes each day. If you like check marking boxes because you're more analytical, that can work. But find a way to track the results as to whether or not you accomplished these non-negotiable disciplines and whether you took time to work on one of the projects to move that forward. The third piece of this, and the last piece, is to find an accountability partner. This is a critical component as well, because I know from my years of working with a coach that I will procrastinate or make excuses or fail to do what I intend to do a lot of the time if I don't have accountability. And it's not, again, because of lack of intention or even a lack of discipline at times, but it's human nature. It's what we fight against. There are times when I'll be in a great season where I'm just clicking along and everything's working and I can just do it without thought. There's other seasons where it is like trudging through mud to get one discipline done, and I know I'm failing 5 others, right? It happens, whether it's because of our own emotional or mental state, whether it's because of outside challenges that are going on in life. Maybe someone is ill, or we have a crisis that we're dealing with that drains our time and attention. It might be any number of things that can distract us from a business plan. Sometimes it's just that client that drains us. It's that one horrible client that is full of drama, is just not easy. And we lose the motivation or the ability to stay focused on doing the things that matter because we're giving so much attention and energy to them, right? To manage that person. So those things will come up, and I don't want you to be discouraged or sidetracked and then 30 days has gone by and you're like, shoot, I just haven't done any of these. So find yourself an accountability partner, whether that's me or someone else, a friend, a spouse, a teammate, a colleague. It's just really important for you to check in. And for me, it can be as simple as a text and say, hey, I got 3 of my 4 disciplines done this week. It doesn't have to be a lot, but the more you are accountable to your intentions with someone else, the more I know you'll show up for yourself. For me, when I know my coaching calls are coming, if I've procrastinated and things haven't been done, I'm scrambling. I mean, everything else goes on the back burner. It's almost like leaving for vacation, and I am working to get that one thing done so I can show up on my call and say, I did it, and have that moment of celebration. And it really should be like that for all of us, where we have a celebration every time we complete these. It should be something that you feel really good about. I just hope that, unlike me, on some of the weeks, that you're not procrastinating until the last minute and then either making excuses to not do it or doing it half-heartedly or not well. And so if you will engage in having an accountability partner, you will time block those items on your calendar, and then you will cross-check your results and track and measure whether or not you created the outcomes through those disciplines being executed on. I know you will find a lot more success in your life and your business.
Question, are we gonna need to get to that? Oh, sorry.
I'm like, need to get to what? I don't know. The last piece I will just throw in there for you guys is that this simple business plan can actually be done for your personal life as well. So if you like this format and it works for you, I've used it in my personal world. Maybe the outcomes become, something specific like do 2 date nights with my husband a month, or maybe it's lose 10 pounds by the end of the month, or maybe it's read a book every month that's nonfiction. Whatever those outcomes can be, think about the circles of life that you have, your finances. You can put great goals related to that. I want to save, $2,000, or again, your health, your spiritual walk, your relationships with your family, your friendships, and your community. So anything that you have that is related to those areas, you can create outcomes for that you want to see happen. Maybe it's you volunteer twice a month for a charitable organization that you love. That can be an outcome. And then the disciplines would be to schedule those appointments and to find out which places have a need for volunteers and what availability they have. And then you're showing up to do that. It's a great feeling of accomplishment when you start to see your life in whole really raise up. There's a lot of times where we focus, I'll say, too much on business, and we let other areas of our lives slip. And so I encourage you guys to look at this also as a tool you can use for your personal life as well as your business life, because as you know, we're all about creating meaningful success, and that means it's personal and professional. I never want the focus to always be on business, but obviously as the broker here, part of my strategic plan is to help you guys with identifying how do you succeed in business, because I know that funding supports a lot of your life goals too. All right, anything else I can do for you guys before we close out? You good?
I'm good.
Okay, perfect. Then I am going to stop this screen share and end the recording. And I appreciate your time.